Hey everyone, welcome back. We're back with another episode of Nick and Manny's Infinite Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Emmanuel Fuentes, and with me is our co-host.
That's me. That's Nick Reeves.
Yeah, Nick, welcome back. How are you? How's your week been?
I'm doing all right. It's been quite a week, a lot of work, doing something really fun that we'll talk about later. Yeah, just been super busy. Haven't had as much downtime as I'm used to, so I'm a little tired. My voice is kind of shot. I hope that doesn't come through too badly. Uh, yeah, I'm excited to do this again. We had a great first episode, or 0 episode last week, I should say.
Yes, last week was episode 0, as we're calling it. It was our test episode to see how everything was going to go. And we just want to say thank you guys so much for listening. It blew our expectations out of the water. Want to say thanks to everyone who shared it, who liked it, who just sent us a message saying, hey, I listened to it. That really did mean a lot. And we want to announce that we are now available on pretty much every major platform where you can listen to your podcast. So we are now on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and a whole bunch of others. The easiest way to find us is probably going to go through our Anchor feed, and from there you can click onto whichever podcast feed you would like more, and you can just subscribe there, and you'll get all of our episodes each week when we release them.
Yeah, it's been an amazing response from everybody. I think, like you said, it blew us both out of the water. Just sharing it on social media, sharing it in the Discord that we're in, everyone was super positive. The messages were really nice. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to do the first episode. I don't know, I guess we can talk about this a little bit. We planned it to be episode 0. Did you actually plan to actually release that? Because that wasn't my intention at first.
I did indeed plan to release that
Okay.
because it was our test episode to see how everything was going to be, see how
Okay.
it was sound, and it's good feedback to get from people.
Yeah, no, I just thought it was a test recording at first, so I thought we'd just like make sure the audio sounded good, make sure our microphones were okay, all that kind of thing, and then we'd actually do another episode. But it just went so well that we published it.
It went really well. We did publish it. We got responses about the fast food French fries.
Oh
We
yeah,
had
we
a
did.
lot of people saying that we were crazy for putting Shake Shack. It wasn't Shake Shack, but we did get responses saying that some of our fries were in whack orders.
Uh-huh. Which we expected.
Yeah, of course, the French fries. They're all going to be subjective, but most people did agree that Burger King was the worst.
Yeah, that was the universal thing, at least among the people I talked to, was that Burger King was pretty garbage.
Pretty garbage indeed. So, Nick,
Yeah.
what you been watching this week?
Oh, I've actually watched a ton of stuff this week. I'm gonna do the basic film student thing. I'm gonna pull up my letterboxd real quick, see if there's anything I'm missing here. There's one big one we'll get into in a minute.
The big release of the week, yes,
Yeah,
we
we'll
will
get.
indeed get into that because we have some opinions.
hmm We'll get into that in just a second. I'll just run through what I've watched in the last week, if that's okay. We don't have to talk about any of these at length, but just gonna keep everyone up to date. Last week I watched Leon the Professional for the first time. I watched The Sixth Sense for the first time. I watched Do the Right Thing for the first time, and I watched The Insider for the first time. And then
You want
I watched The Big Release.
the big release, yeah. So let's break it down. Let's start with Sixth Sense,
hmm
M. Night's movie. We know that you saw Old and
I
you actually
did.
liked it
I
for the
did like
most
Old.
part.
Yeah, I get why people don't like Old, but I liked it for the most part.
That's good. So what did you think of Sixth Sense? Have you been spoiled for the movie?
Yeah, it's kind of hard not to be. I told someone that I'm someone who's been into movies for most of my life. I'm 23 years old. It's kind of on me at this point that I hadn't seen The Sixth Sense and that it was just inevitable that I was going to learn that at some point, which I did. And I think watching the movie for that lens is almost like watching any mystery movie for a second time, is that you know what you're looking for and you're trying to pick up on all the hints along the way. And there's a lot of hints along the way in The Sixth Sense about what the ultimate end twist ends up being.
Yeah, we're not gonna spoil it here in case anyone hasn't seen Sixth Sense. But outside of the twist, what do you think of the movie?
I really dug it. I thought it was probably one of the best Bruce Willis performances ever. I haven't seen the other movies he's done with Shyamalan, but I get the feeling that, other than maybe the first couple Die Hards, it's probably the best work that any director's been able to get out of him, because he's kind of phoned it in most of his career since then. I really like Haley Joel Osment in it. I didn't realize he got an Oscar nomination for it. He got a Best Supporting Actor nom. I was really emotionally invested in that, and I think his character paid off really well.
I tend to agree with you, except for you said that it was Willis's best performance. I think Kevin Smith got a better performance out of him in Cop Out. That's my
That's the one Kevin Smith movie I've seen, and I was not particularly enamored with it. I had no idea. I had no
uh,
idea who he was at the time. In fairness,
Cop Out is it's not good. It was a very troubled shoot, and Willis was not the easiest to comply with. And those two have a very interesting relationship with each other. I know you're not the hugest fan of Smith, but I tend to think you don't hate him in general. You're just not a big fan of his work.
I've only seen Cop Out, so I guess by that logic, I'm not a big fan of his work. I don't really have strong feelings about him at this point, just because I haven't seen much from him. I know him more as like a pundit now than as a filmmaker.
Yeah. So there's he told an interesting story a couple months ago about the last time he's talked to Bruce Willis was, years ago, and then he got a call from him the other day being like, "Hey, you in town?" And him being like, "Yeah, why? What's up?" He's like, "All right, can I come over?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And they had this really weird conversation with each other, and then he never heard from Bruce Willis again.
That sounds like Bruce Willis to me.
Yeah,
Just the bits and pieces I've heard about him.
yeah, nothing but respect for the guy, but like, get out of your own head sometimes.
Yeah. What else did I watch? I mentioned a bunch there.
You said
Do
that you had watched Do the Right Thing,
yeah.
Spike Lee's acclaimed film.
Mm-hmm. I've only seen a couple Spike Lee movies. I've only seen, I think, before this, his last two. I saw Black Klansman, and I saw Defy Bloods last year. I really like both of those. And other than that, Spike Lee was kind of a blind spot for me. But I had the Blu-ray that a
Gotcha.
friend gave me. Yeah, I watched it. I think Friday night. Just popped the Blu-ray in. It's a great looking Blu-ray, and I really dug the movie for the most part. It feels a lot like a play, which I don't know what I was expecting the movie to be, but it really feels a lot like a play with how characters kind of come in and out. They're pretty isolated. I think they're only on like a couple blocks in their neighborhood, stuff like that. And I thought it was really good for the most part, and it was pretty fun for a little while. And then some of those tensions started bubbling over more and more. And then at the end, it becomes deadly serious, and it's really harrowing how that movie ends.
Yeah, it's a classic film. I mean,
Yeah.
Spike Lee, love him or hate him, his films always have a purpose and a message, and that's
Mm-hmm.
something that I can always appreciate about his films. Whereas some, they're just made, to be made. Which, I mean, if you're gonna make a movie, do you? But I'm glad that Spike Lee always has been advocating for the things that he believes in his films very
Yes.
strongly.
Yeah, same for me. I think I knew he was in the movie. I didn't know he's pretty much the protagonist. It's a big ensemble movie, but I'd say he's the closest thing the movie has to a protagonist. And for the most part, I think his performance really works. And I don't know. I'm sure he's probably puts himself in a lot of his stuff, at least in small roles. I don't know, but
Um,
I was impressed by
in
how good he
recent years
was.
he, in recent years he hasn't put himself
Yeah,
in a whole lot of the films.
yeah. He wasn't in
Um,
the two that I saw.
yeah, he wasn't in the last two, which were The Five Bloods and Black Klansman, which are great films
Yeah,
that
both
everyone
great.
should go watch. And I think you saw one more. I think you saw
Uh,
one more movie last
two
week.
more.
Two.
Leon the Professional. That was the first one I mentioned. I watched that for the first time. I thought it was really strong. I was impressed by Natalie Portman. I figured she'd be good, but she, along with Haley Joel Osment, those are both, I think, kind of classic child actor performances at this point, and she really delivered. Gary Oldman is on another plane of existence in that movie. He's hamming it up to the nth degree, and I think that really works. And it's really, really charming. The relationship that I don't know how you pronounce his name. John Reno is how I'm gonna say his name. The main character, Leon. The relationship he has with Natalie Portman is really heartwarming, and I think it pays off really well at the end too. And the last movie that I saw, well, next to last, we'll talk about the big one in just a second.
Yeah, we'll talk
Uh,
about the big one because I also saw some things this week.
you did, yeah. So the last one I saw, for all you Michael Mann heads out there, and I know there's at least one in our Discord the only person I ever talk about Michael Mann stuff with. I saw The Insider from 1999, and that movie was incredible. It might be my favorite Russell Crowe performance that I've seen. I've got a couple blind spots with him, but I really dug that movie. I love Michael Mann's style, and that's one of the quickest 2.5 hour movies that I've ever seen. It just flew by. Okay, so let's move on to the big one. Unless there's anything else you saw last week.
I saw. I rewatched Jungle Cruise because
Okay.
I was with some friends and stuff, but I had it on in the background, so I wasn't really paying attention.
Well, you did say on the
It's
last
still there.
episode that it was the ultimate background movie.
Yeah, it's background noise. The movie.
Hmm.
Um, And then, moving on to TV, I watched Ted Lasso.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who are unaware, Ted Lasso, it's a show starring Jaken.
Jaken.
It's a show Jaken Sudeikis. It's a show starring Jason Sudeikis. He is a football coach from the Americas, and he goes over to England to teach soccer. And there are some antics that occur, but it's generally about spreading positivity.
Mm-hmm.
And this week's episode, what a great episode. It dealt with a lot of good things with sponsorships and branding and how you as a person represent not only yourself but where you come from. And I think that's a great episode, and it was really cool for team bonding, for some of the things that happen in there. So it's a great show. It's so good. Everyone should watch it. I know it's on Apple TV Plus, which is not great, but when season 2 ends, spend the $5 for the month and rewatch all of Ted Lasso because it's that good.
Well, what you just said about when season 2 ends, spend the $5, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I had a free year of Apple TV that expired on August 1st of this year, so just, I guess, 10 days ago from when we're recording. Uh, and I didn't want to renew it until season 2 ended, which I assume is going to be sometime in September. So I'm gonna watch season 2 all over again. I watched season 1 a few months ago, I think in a 24-hour period. I don't usually binge things, but that's an extremely bingeable show. And I was impressed by how much I liked it, to be honest, because I'd seen so many people raving about it, and it got to the point where I don't know if I would say it was overhyped, but it was just, I don't know. I wasn't
It
sold
had
on it, I
that
guess.
aura with it of being,
Yeah,
this could potentially not be good, and I don't want to be that person to hate on it.
there was a certain energy around it from certain people that I reminds me of like some of the NBC comedies back in their day, and
Yeah.
I didn't always love the vibes with those, but I like Ted Lasso. I really dig Jason Sudeikis in it. I think all the other side characters mostly work. There's some little things that I don't remember liking too much about it, but yeah, the message of positivity always comes through. I would highly recommend watching the show as well. I'm gonna watch season 2 when it ends, which I assume is next month sometime. And you shouted out the specific episode from this week. Do you want to say the actual episode number so if people want to go back
Ooh,
and watch
this
it?
is season 2, episode 3.
Okay, so we're on episode 3 right now.
Yeah, we're only on episode 3 of 12. So,
Oh,
next week,
it's a bigger
next
season.
month. Yeah, it's 12 episodes this season.
Nice. Okay,
So, it looks like you'll be watching it closer to October,
October.
November.
Yep. Okay,
Yeah.
which is fine. I don't mind waiting, because I'll watch it all in one day or maybe over 2 days since it's a couple episodes longer.
Yeah. And now, we come to the big one.
Yeah.
The big release of the week, WB's The Suicide Squad from director James Gunn. It's his return since Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Hmm.
He has produced a couple things. He produced, what was that movie where they're all in the building and they're trying to not kill each other? The Something Project.
Hotel something.
No. It was the Something Project. Let's see.
I don't know. Yeah, look that up.
Hey Jamie, can you go look that up? Um, Belko Experiment. So the
That's
Belko
it.
Experiment was before Guardians 2.
I think he wrote that.
He wrote Belko
Okay.
Experiment. He wrote and directed Guardians 2.
Hmm.
So this is his first film since then.
It's been
And
4 years.
It's been 4 years since Guardians 2.
Wow.
And this is his return. I'll start with the positive because we have two different opinions. I really enjoyed this movie. I think I still enjoy Guardians 1 and 2 a bit more, but this is a very solid film. I think everyone that's saying the middle portion dragged a little bit, I agree with them. I think there's one sequence with Harley Quinn in specific that you could cut out and you probably won't lose a whole lot. This is definitely James Gunn film with comic books, I would say, because if you know him, he comes from horror, so you have things like Slither and Super that he did, which are a lot more horror. But the last couple of films that he's done has been comic book films.
Hmm.
So I feel like this is the most that he's been able to combine the two. And I actually think it's edited more like an Edgar Wright film than something like a James Gunn film.
Okay.
I thought a lot of the title sequences, and some of the fast editing was very much an Edgar Wright kind of feel. So I liked that personally. And Nick, I know you have a different opinion about the movie.
Not as totally different as we've been kind of joking about the last couple days. I thought the movie was fine. I gave it, I think, 3 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. I went positive with it because my impressions are generally positive. I think I just didn't love it to that extra degree that most people seem to. Uh, I wasn't sure if I wanted to see it for a while. I heard the reviews ended up being good, so I was gonna watch it anyway. But I do remember like a couple months ago when that ad campaign was starting, it felt like they were trying too hard, I guess, for lack of a better expression, because those posters and those trailers that said things like "from the beautifully horrific mind of James Gunn" or whatever they said, it felt like they were trying too hard to paint him in a certain light, I guess. And I knew it wouldn't be as fucked up as they were probably making it out to be. And for the most part, I don't think this movie really was. It had some gore. It had, I think, one or two moments of nudity, like brief nudity, I think. But it's not an incredibly fucked up movie. It's an R-rated movie for sure, just because of how much happens in it. But I don't think it's anything too special.
When you say too special, do you mean like it didn't push the boundaries of anything? Is that what you're saying?
I guess compared to how they tried to hype it up as being, it felt like sort of how Deadpool was kind of hyped up. I guess in that it's this big R-rated comic book movie, and they want you to know that it's an R-rated comic book movie, and that they're going to go farther than most comic book movies go because most of them are PG-13. It felt like they were really trying to sell it as that, and I don't think the movie necessarily lived up to that. I think that was a bit, at least for me, a bit of an unfair position to put the movie in.
I would say I could understand that position of you feeling like it didn't do enough to, I guess, push the hard R. But for me personally, I really liked the way that it was just mean in a lot of ways. Like the first 15 minutes or so, it was just like you didn't have to do them all like that. you know,
Do we
it
want to
was
go
it
into
was
spoilers at all?
I wouldn't say let's go into spoilers right now. If we end up having to talk about it again next week, we will. Um, but I think I really, really liked the first 30, 40 minutes of the movie. I think it was very well written. Those first 40 minutes or so, I thought a lot of the humor was really well done. I think once they start to get into the main plot, some of the things start to break and the pacing gets a little bit off. But I really enjoyed the characters. I really enjoyed the way that they said not to get attached because they did that very well with characters. And I really liked the third act. The third act brought an amazing villain that I knew was in the movie, but just to see the way that they actually incorporated it felt really it made more sense compared to the first Suicide Squad movie
No, for sure.
because they came up with workarounds to how to defeat the third act villain that was much more clever than in the first film.
Hmm. And I will say, you said this was well written, and I think in a conventional sense, I agree. Even if some stuff didn't always work for me,
Yeah,
I don't love the humor. I don't love a lot of the humor. I like the Guardians movie humor a bit more. But there were moments like in Guardians 2 that Taserface joke gets drawn out too much, I think, and it starts to grate on me. There were jokes like this in Suicide Squad. There's
I'm
one
gonna
joke.
assume you're talking about Milton.
Yeah, there's one joke toward the end with Milton that I think is fine the first time, then they drag it out a couple times after that. That I'm not a fan of. We won't go into any more specifics than that.
Yeah.
But I do think it's well written in the sense that most of the characters, the ones that the movie takes time with, they all have arcs and places that they're going to be at the end of their arc at whenever they bow out of the movie. So the major characters, they all have moments at the end. Other than one, I guess, and I guess if I want to segue a little bit, without any specifics, I think Harley Quinn's kind of superfluous to this movie. That's kind of my big problem. I understand her necessity to be there as a selling point, because she's, I think, the one popular character that came from the first Suicide Squad movie, which is why they gave her Birds of Prey. But I don't think the plot of the movie would be much different if she wasn't there. I think you could easily work around her.
I would agree with that. I think I like Margot Robbie as Harley. I
I
think
do
she
too.
does a really good job. I'm on record of not being the biggest fan of Birds of Prey because I felt like that movie was trying too hard to
Hmm.
show, oh, we're different, we're quirky, and all this stuff. But there are things that I like from Birds of Prey that carry into this movie that I would have liked to seen more because I like in Birds of Prey, for instance, they show that she still has that training of a psychologist
Hmm.
and they utilize that a lot in Birds of Prey to break down the characters and their states in life, and I really like that. And they do something with that in this film that I feel was just out of place, but I think could have been rewritten to relate to someone like Polka Dot Man. I
Hmm.
think if
Yep.
she had done some of the stuff that she did in Birds of Prey with Polka Dot Man or with some of the other characters in this film to sort of be that, not to explain everything to us, but to break it down for them to be like, well, you're like this because of this and that. You're like this because of American exceptionalism. You're like this and that because such and such. I feel like her role would have been more, but I agree that she didn't really add a whole lot to the film,
Yeah, I think
other than being
we're
that selling point.
if we're gonna rewrite the movie on the air here, we'll just go in a little detail. I think you could even do something as simple as like a little scene with Amanda Waller where she doesn't like Harley Quinn, but she feels that Harley can keep the team together. She can work with them psychologically. I know Idris Elba has an arc of being the leader of the team, but I think Harley can be like that glue that holds the team together because she knows how to push everyone's buttons for good or for bad. I think that would have been an interesting angle to take. That would work off
And they
her past as her life before she was Harley Quinn.
and they do incorporate that a little bit when with I don't think this is a spoiler, but Harley gets taken and they have to go get her back. And
Hmm.
I feel like there's that little part where she says like, "Oh, you guys came back for me." And I think like that going to what you're saying, that sort of adds to that Harley is she is important to the team in one way or another. I just wish that they would have sort of defined it clearer instead of just being like, "Oh, she's pretty."
Yeah, yeah,
Go
that was
crazy.
that sequence that you're talking about where she gets taken. That's where I felt the movie started dragging, I think, and it didn't pick back up until the third act. I do like the third act a lot. I had some issues with the first act. It did drag a little in the middle, but it picked up toward the end. I liked where most of the characters ended up. There is one character that he gets his payoff and then they immediately undercut it, and I really didn't like that. I know you mentioned it's a really mean movie, but I think that moment I didn't really enjoy.
Yeah. One more thing before we move on to what you've been playing. Your man, John Cena, the
Yeah.
Invisible Man. What'd you think about him?
I think this is the right kind of role for him. I haven't seen him in something like Trainwreck, which I heard he was good and he was funny in. I have seen him in Bumblebee, which I thought he was pretty bad, but I think that was also kind of the writing of that character that failed him. Other than that one line where he says they're literally Decepticons. I think that movie kind of fails him, but that kind of role, and I think he carries that over into Suicide Squad. I think that's the kind of role for him because his role in wrestling, which I watched for all these years, was that he was super patriotic. He was like the prototypical good guy. Like his first name as a wrestler was literally the prototype, and I feel like for that certain archetype of character, he fits that role physically, and I think he can be so stoic that he fits that role, sort of emotionally as well. And I think his role as Peacemaker was kind of that. They get into a little bit more depth with him at the end, and I'm sure they'll explore that more in his HBO Max show, which I may or may not watch. I'm not sure yet. But I liked what they did with him. I think he did pretty well for the most part, and I guess we'll see more of him soon.
Yeah, I really like John Cena in this movie. I don't think I've seen him in in much else. I know that I saw him in Bumblebee. Ironically, I saw him in the Fred movies because those were a thing that had John Cena in them.
Yeah,
Um, F9 I did not see
I just remembered that he was in
they're
that.
bad. They're bad movies, and
Okay,
I stand by that.
you can
Um,
you can stand by that. I'm not gonna fight you too hard over that. I know what those movies are.
yeah, exactly. You know what they are, and I know
Again,
what they are, and they
and
work for you, but they
yeah,
don't work for me.
yeah, it happens. And his character in F9 even is kind of that same stoic character. They give him a little bit to work with in terms of his backstory, but he's pretty basic. Like he can fit that archetype really well, and I think I worry he's going to get typecast in that. I think he does have more range than he's been able to show, but I think that role works well for him.
Yeah, I really liked him in this role. There's one line where he says, he's like, I don't care how many men, children, and women I need to kill to keep the peace, something like
Yeah,
that.
that was a
And then they
trailer
bring
line, I
that up,
think.
yeah, and then they bring it up later in the film to sort of talk about American exceptionalism or just like country exceptionalism,
Hmm.
really, because all countries go through the same thing. And I really like that they sort of touched on that, and with this over exaggerated character of Peacemaker, and it's just really it was funny. I really liked his character. I liked the way that he was just always so serious, but when it came between him and Idris Elba, they were just so competitive with each other. That jungle scene,
Yep.
that first scene with the two of them, I was dying. It was so good.
I like the
It,
joke at the very end of that scene too.
I was just thinking about that too. Oh, they had a lot of Chekhov's guns in this movie.
Yep.
At the beginning, you had something for Harley, and then you also had something between Peacemaker and Idris Elba's character Bloodsport that I really liked that they incorporated, and I felt like each line of dialogue for the most part was important.
Yeah, I would say that at least in terms of the Chekhov's guns that you're talking about. The one
Chekhov's gun.
between
There's
the
there's one Chekhov's gun that gets mentioned, and I don't think a lot of people sort of expected it. But after credits, stay for the after credits, because I was
okay.
like, there's no way, right? Like he's gotta be. And then they did, and I was like, okay, I
I don't,
thought so.
I don't know exactly what you mean. Since we're tiptoeing, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. We'll talk about that off air.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I thought most of those Chekhov's guns, they paid off really well at the end, which, like, when I say this is conventionally good writing, that's the kind of stuff I mean. He knows what he's doing in the sense that he knows how to set characters up and he knows how to pay them off at the end. Even if sometimes they get undercut with a joke along the way, they generally end up where they should be, and I do appreciate that aspect of this movie. I think it ends really strong, especially for those main characters.
yeah. I think like this is a good script to analyze and show, hey, this is how you can incorporate an ensemble where each person gets their time and is important, and each one of the characters have a meaningful arc throughout the film, because each one of them, for the most part, had an important arc. Each of the main ones, they
Yeah,
had an important arc. One of the like Polka Dot Man, a lot of people were clowning on him at the beginning of all of this stuff, but Polka Dot Man was a really cool character, and I
I
liked what
thought
they
so
did
too.
with him.
Yeah,
I liked his visuals a lot. Everything that they did with him. There's a scene in a club that simple camera movement.
mhm.
It looks so good.
Yeah, the thing they do, the perspective when they show things from his perspective. I liked it when they did it in the club. That was another thing I don't think I needed to see a second time when it happened again later in the movie. Uh, I didn't find it particularly funny. I don't know if you're supposed to find it funny because it's kind of a fucked up backstory that he has, but I don't feel like we needed to see it again at the end.
I'll agree. I didn't really find it funny the first time. I was like, oh, okay. And then the second time, I was like, oh, okay. But it made sense for his character,
It
I would
does.
say. Even
It's
if it's not funny, it meant something to him. And I
yeah,
like that.
yeah. It's not a major it's not a major disappointment for me or anything. It's just something I didn't necessarily love.
Yeah. So I'm probably gonna give it an 8.5 ish, somewhere in that range. I really enjoyed it. I think I still like the Guardians films more. I think they are more close to Gunn, I would say. He said that this one was like his most personal film, but I still think the Guardians films are closer to that, I would say.
I would agree.
Hey Nick,
Yeah, buddy.
what you been playing?
Oh, what have I been playing? The main thing I've been playing this last week, I think, has been Skyward Sword HD for the Switch. We'll talk about Zelda more in depth in a future episode. We've got plans for that. Um, but this is my first time playing through Skyward Sword. I'm playing through some of the 3D Zeldas for the first time. I played Ocarina of Time on the 3DS last month, and I finished it a couple weeks ago. And I really dug that game for the most part. Skyward Sword, I think I'm about 10, 11 hours in right now. Uh, and I'm liking it. It's I don't know. It feels really basic. Like my problem my it's funny because my problem with older Zelda games is that a lot of times they're really cryptic in their design and sometimes it's not clear where to go. Skyward Sword is a bit too handholdy, I think. I think the perfect balance is somewhere in between. But because it's handholdy, I feel like I'm progressing through it quicker and I'm having more fun in the process just because I can power through and I don't have to stop forever to figure out one silly little puzzle that's gonna drive me crazy. In that sense, I dig Skyward Sword a lot. I like the aesthetic more than I thought I would because I saw bits of gameplay from the old Wii version and I never thought it looked that good. It doesn't even seem like they cleaned up the visuals that much, but it looks really nice for the most part. The Joy-Cons work pretty well. The gyro can get a little annoying. That's how I play with, because you originally played with the Wiimote and the nunchuck on the Wii. So I play with the two Joy-Cons, and I use the gyro for the pointer and the aiming and all that. And it mostly works. You have to recalibrate a lot, and some enemies can be kind of stupid to fight because of that. but I'm having a lot of fun with it so far.
Gotcha, gotcha. I'm not the biggest fan of Zelda, but that comes
Yeah.
from someone who's never played a Zelda. But everything I see from them just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah,
And I've
if they're
had this
not your thing,
conversation
they're
with a
not
lot
your
of
thing.
people. They don't seem to be my thing. I have the hottest take on Breath of the Wild, which we
Hmm.
are planning to go more in depth on with
That
some other people eventually.
that's going to be a main
Um,
topic for us one week.
that is going to be a main topic. It's probably going to be an extravaganza. But I'm glad that you're having fun with it because
Yeah,
I just want people to have fun with games in general, even if they aren't for me.
it's nice to want people to have fun with stuff, isn't it?
It is
Like
like even if
I'm
I make fun of you for not liking Suicide Squad or something
yeah.
like that, I don't care in the grand scheme of things. It's a
No,
movie.
no, we just banter, and I was debating with people in the Discord that were in a little earlier, and I
Yeah.
was kind of making fun of them, but I think they all know it's all in good fun for me. I'm glad people
I
like the
mean, yeah,
movie.
you had the whole running gag about you being in love with Avatar
James
that we
Cameron's
started.
Avatar, we got it in
James
again
Cameron.
every
We did
week.
get it in again.
Yeah, we did. We with the Wanger show on YouTube. We watched along a commentary with them a couple weeks ago for Avatar, which I pretty much single-handedly spearheaded. We can talk about this a little bit. Since what was it, April or May of this year? I think was when we first talked about it. Maybe a little earlier.
It might have been earlier.
Yeah, I think it was when our Pokemon bot was taking over around that time.
Yeah,
But
so somewhere in
April-ish,
April.
I want to say.
No, it was March. I would say like late March, early April is when it started because I was
Okay.
still editing stuff for school. So
Okay.
that had to have been late March, early April.
Okay. Regardless, it's been several months that we've had this running joke, and most people that I talk to, at least in the Discord that we're in and in the YouTube chats and stuff, not too enamored with Avatar, but I kept the bit alive for so long that we finally just did it, and it was a lot of fun.
It was fun. It was fun for everyone,
Yeah, for everyone,
especially me.
definitely, not just for me.
Yeah, 100%. No,
Oh,
but yes.
there's something else I've been playing.
What have you been playing?
Something we mentioned last week. I played, I think, an hour or two of Pokemon Unite.
He played it.
I did.
What'd you think?
It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I'll accept that.
I like that it's. I like that we talked about last week. It's more involved, at least the gameplay, because Pokemon's always turn-based. I like that it's a bit more involved. It's, I guess, real time. You could say. You're going around battling. I think the moves. Maybe it's just because I'm so low level and everything. It feels really basic what you can do. It just feels kind of button mashy. At least the interactions with the enemy Pokemon. I do like that it's kind of like, what would you say the scoring is? It's like basketball, but
It's like basketball, yeah.
you can like accumulate points by taking out other Pokemon and taking out some AI Pokemon on the field, and then you can score them, and you just want to outscore the enemy team by the end. I like that kind of gameplay, and I think it like those matches are pretty quick and they're pretty fun for the most part, even though I think the overall core gameplay is pretty limited. It's totally fine. I don't see myself playing it too much more. But for what it is, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a free to play baby's first MOBA, so it is
Hmm.
going to be limited in that sense because they don't want
It's
to
my first MOBA, I
overwhelm.
think.
Yeah, it's like my second or third MOBA that I've played, but first one that I got really into. But yeah, it's a simple game.
Yeah, super simple, super basic. And from what I hear, I haven't looked at the stuff you can buy, but I hear those microtransactions are super predatory for the most part.
Microtransactions in general
In
are
general, yeah.
predatory,
Yeah,
so
I've heard they're
I
pretty
think
bad in that game in particular, but I haven't looked into exactly what they are and why they're any worse than any other microtransactions.
I don't think they're worse than any microtransactions. I think the main hoopla is that it's a Pokemon Nintendo game and they're putting it in there. But I'll be honest, I think they're hard to find. I don't think the menus are the easiest to navigate, so I
Nope.
don't think a lot of people in general are going to be using microtransactions.
Yeah, they weren't front and center for me or anything. Like I think the only place I actually saw them was when you were picking the costume for your Pokemon. You can just do the regular look, or you can put a little costume on them.
Yeah.
That's where you can buy them with that in-game currency. But otherwise, I haven't really seen what the microtransactions are.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
It's fine. Like I said, it would have been funny if we just stopped. I said it's fine, and then we just moved on.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's okay. So I'm gonna turn it on you now. What have you been playing, buddy?
Let's see. I played some more Splatoon.
Oh
Splatoon
yeah,
2 is Nintendo
Splatoon 2.
Switch. Great game.
Yep.
Played some of the campaign. Fun
hmm
missions. It's, there's a lot of focus on the multiplayer of the game, but I really like the campaign because they're just simple 7, 8 minute levels, and then you're in and out.
Yeah, I don't find those campaigns to be particularly memorable. I played both of them. I played Splatoon, the first one on the Wii U a few years ago. They're nothing special, but they're fun, especially if you're trying to get the hang of the game. It gets you to use all the different weapons, which I like. Uh, just pretty well designed, pretty easy, pretty fun. Just kind of a nice little time waster, I guess. It's nothing like you buy that game for the multiplayer, like 100%, but it's a decent little inclusion. I never played the what was it, the Octo expansion, the campaign expansion that
Yeah,
came out a couple years
Octo
ago.
something expansion.
Yeah, it seems more story based, and I personally couldn't care less about the story and lore of Splatoon. That's just not something I care about. I've thought about trying it if it's on sale, but I don't know if I like the campaigns that much.
Yeah. On top of that, I played a lot of board games this week,
Oh,
which
that's
we'll
right.
get into for the main topic, but I did play a
hmm
lot of board games. And then lastly, I've been playing Splitgate. So this is a game that came out at least 3 years ago. Probably more, but I know the last time I played it was 3 years ago. And it's gotten a resurgence in the last month or so because of some streamer that ended up playing it and everyone wanted to try it. So, do you know what Splitgate is?
I've never even heard of it.
So Splitgate is Halo and Portal mixed together.
Okay, I'm listening.
So it's an arena shooter where you pick up guns, you have snipers and shotties, blah blah blah. But there are panels along the walls and stuff that you can shoot portals into and teleport to. So
Okay.
you're playing Halo, but you can play Portal at the same time. It's about positioning, see where you can get the drop on someone, see the make sure that they can't get the drop on you, so on and so forth. It's really interesting, really fun. I've liked it, and it's just really cool because in the last 5 years we haven't had a Halo game, but
No,
that's changing this year.
6
We're
years
getting Halo
actually.
Infinite. 6 years was
Yeah,
Halo 5?
Halo
Yeah,
5 was 2015, so we're getting
yeah.
Infinite.
So
Fingers
six
crossed
years.
we get it in a couple months. They still don't have a release date for Infinite.
I think we get it in a couple
I
months.
think we get it in November. Yeah.
Given the way that the technical flight went, for the
hmm
most part, pretty flawlessly, I think we get it in a couple months.
We did mention last week that we were going to talk about Halo this week. Because we're so jam packed and we've got our main topics to get to, probably going to push that back to next week because I love Halo so much, I want to delve into it more. So I think we might make that our main topic for next week.
Yeah, stay tuned for our thoughts on Halo next
There you
week.
go. Thoughts on Halo next week, I
Thoughts on
promise.
Halo next week.
Okay, so
Um,
back to Splitgate. I have a question about it then.
yeah,
How'd you play it? Was it PC?
it's on PC, it's on Xbox, it's on PlayStation. You can play it on all of them.
Okay.
But I was playing it on PC, and I just, rather than using the Q and E to shoot my portals, I just have two thumb buttons on my mouse, so I was just controlling them through there, and it felt really nice to use.
Okay. Do you know as of right now is it on Game Pass?
It's free to play.
Oh, okay. I guess I should have asked that. That was another thing I should have asked.
Yeah,
Yeah, if it's free to play, then I might check that out. I guess we could play it on Xbox sometime if you wanted.
exactly. Yeah, it's free to play. I didn't really see too many. I didn't see any pay to win microtransactions. I know that they do have randomized loot boxes that you can get skins and wraps for your guns for, but I don't care in the grand scheme for all that stuff. I never really have.
Yeah, I think usually at least for me with free to play games, usually like I'm not the kind of person that's gonna pay for in-game stuff like that, so it doesn't really affect my opinion of anything. But I do agree the practice as a whole is pretty predatory.
Yeah. There are a couple things like I think I bought one battle pass for Apex because I really love Apex and I'm sad I haven't been able to play the new season yet. But I am planning to play some Apex with some friends later on this week. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I tried Apex a couple times. I think the gameplay is good, but it never really captured me.
it's not Titanfall 3 and I want Titanfall 3.
I want Titanfall 3 so bad. Titanfall 2 was the best like $3 I've ever spent on a game.
Titanfall 2 is worth every dollar that everyone spent. All right, now this is just going to become a Titanfall 2 segment. Titanfall 2 is one of the best shooters I've played in the last 10 years, at least. I think it's Doom and Titanfall 2 that I would say are the best shooters I've played in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I played Doom. I like Doom. I wasn't as big a fan as most people were. Titanfall 2 though, I would say to me that's easily the best FPS campaign of the last generation.
Yeah. I think what they do over at Respawn in general, whether it's Titanfall, Jedi Fallen Order, or Apex, I think they just nail all the mechanics that they're trying to achieve. Titanfall 1 was rougher because they didn't have a campaign, they didn't have some of these other things that Titanfall 2 does, but they had that core so well in Titanfall 1, and in Titanfall 2 it is just perfected to a T. The momentum that you can get, I've seen people do that opening speed test in the campaign in like 8 seconds. They'll throw a grenade behind them and start going, and it is insane what you can do in that game. The guns all feel really good, and each one has a viable place that you can use them. I just think Titanfall 2 is incredible. On top of the campaign being really cool, introducing a lot of things that ended up being in Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and at the time everyone was like, oh, blah blah blah. But now that it's in Ratchet and Clank, everyone is clamoring to it. And I know that they're different because in Ratchet and Clank you're generating an entire world, whereas in Titanfall 2 you're generating hallways and stuff. But still, the fact that it was in that game years ago, it's just incredible.
Yeah, you mentioned that opening speed test. I can't remember what it's called for the life of me. I wish I could pull the name of that. But
It's like your endurance test that you
yeah,
do
yeah.
in Call of Duty to set
hmm
your difficulty. It's one of those.
Yeah, but anyway, I probably at least a couple days in college. I probably spent like 2 or 3 hours a night trying to master that course as best as I could. I think I got it in like the low 20 seconds area. That was the best that I was able to get.
I think that's about where I got it too. It was closer to like mid 20s, but somewhere in that range was about as best as I could do.
Yeah.
Now, Nick, what have you been up to this week? I know you have a big topic that you want to get to.
I think because you and I can mutually discuss this topic to such a great degree, I think
Yes.
we should talk about what you've been up to first.
All
We
right.
can end the show with what I've been up to.
Yes, because that topic I do want to get to
Oh yeah,
because it is a very interesting topic.
it's a big meaty boy.
It's a big meaty boy. I went to Vegas this
You
week.
did, yeah.
Yeah, Thursday through Sunday, I was in Vegas. It was me, my mom, and my dad. We went to go visit some friends and to do some other things. I had been to Vegas once 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. But at the time, I was there for robotics, so I didn't get to see a lot. We did do Circus Circus, but at the time, I was not impressed with Vegas. I just thought it was really dirty. I still think that it's dirty. Like you can see the dust clouds surrounding it as you
Sure.
drive in. But this time, because I was there for leisure, it was a lot better. We got to walk around through the strip and go through all the hotels and stuff. We saw Caesars, we saw Bellagio, we saw all these other things, and it was actually really nice. I could see why people enjoy going to Vegas.
Yeah, I've never been. I've haven't done that much traveling. I've gone to Colorado a bunch, but never gone any further west than that. I most people I know, it seems like, have been to Vegas at least once in their life. It's a place I've really wanted to go. I would have loved to go there because in a couple weeks from when we're recording this, WWE is in Vegas for their big SummerSlam show, and that seems like it's going to be bigger than what WrestleMania was. I would have loved to turn a Vegas trip into that. Not in the cards, but hopefully next year, maybe WangerCon, we might be able to do something like that in Vegas.
WangerCon 2022. We're going to
hmm
Vegas. Come on. Make it happen,
Let's make
folks.
it happen. So what all did you do while you were there?
Thursday we got there. As we were driving in before we got to our friend's house that we were staying with, we drove through the strip. So we just drove down to see what we wanted to do, where we wanted to visit, and then we went to our friend's house. We chatted with them, and then we got tacos. Now, tacos in Vegas, I don't know how they are as a whole, but there is one restaurant that is in Tijuana. It's in California. It's in San Diego. It's in Vegas, and it's called Tacos El Gordo. And these tacos are the best tacos I've ever had in my life.
Oh
They
wow.
are so good, and even things like a quesadilla, they're just so good. And I make it a point that whenever I can, I want to get those tacos. So if you're ever in Vegas, go get tacos El Gordo. They're fantastic. There's only like 4 or 5 restaurants, but yeah, I will take them.
Yeah.
Then Friday we went around the strip. So we started off in the Cosmopolitan, and from there we walked south. I want to say south or north of the strip. We walked one way, and we saw Caesar's Palace. I got to go inside. We saw a lot of the architecture that was in there, and that was really cool. They had these ceilings that were not like projection mapped, or I don't know if they were, but they were made to look like the sky. So it was
Hmm.
very bright blue, and then you had clouds being superimposed on it, and they had a giant fountain in the middle, and so that was really cool. But that was pretty much the way that we would handle the strip. We'd see a hotel, we'd go inside, we'd go through the casino and try to find some of the other stuff that was there, and then we'd end up leaving. But while we were there, I had a couple of things that I wanted to do. I wanted to go to New York, New York, because I'm in love with New York, even though I've never been. It's been my dream city for a while that I've always wanted to go to. I've just always loved it. So I wanted to go see New York, New York. And as we were driving, we looked and there were a bunch of restaurants. So you had Guy Fieri's restaurant, you had Giada, you had Gordon Ramsay and his 16 different restaurants in there. But we're driving and I look to the right of me and I see uh, Buddy Velastro pizza cake or something like that or whatever. And I'm like, oh, the cake boss has some restaurants here.
Oh.
And so for those of you who don't know, Buddy Velastro, he's the host of Cake Boss, TLC, not old show, but it's a show that was on for many years. It is, I don't think it's on anymore, but he's a chef baker from New Jersey, grew up there, has his dad's restaurant, and they do a lot of baked goods and stuff. So on Friday when we went in, I wanted to get a cannoli and a piece of cake, and I got a cannoli and a piece of cake,
Uh-huh.
and I was so satisfied. That was all I needed for that trip. After that, I was good to do whatever. I did not care.
You transcended in that place. That's what happened.
I did. It's a childhood thing of mine. I grew up watching Cake Boss a lot,
Oh
so
yeah, I
being
get
able
it.
to actually have one of those treats and stuff and not having to go all the way to New Jersey, Hoboken, New Jersey, it's where it's located. Uh it was just really awesome. So we did that. Then we went through New York, New York. There were a couple things that we saw, but honestly wasn't too impressed with a lot of the shops there. But we ended off with a roller coaster that was in New York, New York, and it takes you up and down, loop to loops, all around through the outside, and that was really cool. And then that was pretty much it for Vegas. And then we saw Cirque du Soleil that night. It was technically incredible.
Uh-huh.
Lots of great production. A lot of the acrobatics were incredible. But I'm not a big circus guy. They just weird me out. I find circuses to be a lot scarier than horror films. Like when everyone says that Hereditary is one of the scariest films of the last 10 years, I would rather watch Hereditary 10,000 times than go to a circus again.
Okay. I've never been.
They are
I don't really have an opinion on circuses. Uh,
they are
I
just
don't.
not for me.
I don't think they'd be like particularly for me either. Like I've heard everyone goes to Cirque du Soleil when they go to Vegas, and I don't know. I feel like I can find things that are much more up my alley to do there.
For sure. And there's a lot of other things. Usher started his residency there. Reba was there. I wanted to go see Reba. I'll go see Reba.
Uh-huh.
Reba starts in December though, so we couldn't go see her. But there are lots of other things that you can do in Vegas, and of course the nightlife. Drinking and partying. That's what everyone does in Vegas.
You're a
But
little too young for that.
and plus, like my family doesn't drink. It's
Oh
not
yeah,
what we do. So
yeah. My family's
we
a bit.
we wouldn't have done it either way, really.
Yeah, my family and friends are a bit more adventurous than that, and I'm of age now. You're a little bit shy of that. But when I go to Vegas, I definitely want to participate in at least some of the nightlife, just to experience it a
For
little
sure.
bit.
And the nightlife is great there. We walked some of the strip and it looked really pretty at night as well. So there's nothing like wrong with that.
Yeah.
But as I was saying earlier, I played a lot of board games because the family that we were staying with, the dad, me and him, he taught me a really young age and stuff. So He was a mentor teacher figure in my life for a long time, but he's military, so he traveled a lot. So he went to Spain and California, and now he's in Vegas and stuff. But we both like board games a lot. So I played Ticket to Ride, which is a train game. I don't know if you've played it.
No.
So Ticket to Ride, you have this board, and they have different train routes, and you get different cards, and you're trying to create those train routes without being blocked by other players.
Okay.
So
I like
it's
how
a
that
really
sounds.
simple game that's easy to play.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, played some Magic the Gathering, which I know very the fundamentals of. I'm not a huge Magic player. I've only played a couple games, but I won the second game that we played with a dragon deck, and I played a card that allowed me to look through my discard and pick up another card. No, it was through my deck and find another card that I can use. So I ended up picking this like huge beast that had trample, so it would just go through any of the other players. And with my swarm of dragons, I felt like I was Daenerys from Game of Thrones. I was just killing everybody. I ended up winning that game, so that was really fun.
Uh huh.
I played one called Valfyrion. It is from Kickstarter. It's a Kickstarter game. And one of the things that I actually liked is that because it's for different languages and stuff, they don't have any actual text. It's all symbols on the cards. So
Okay.
instead of saying like this, break this card for this amount of points or something like that, they have symbols to indicate what you can do with the card or how many it takes to destroy it and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really cool. And we played one more. I can't remember what it was, but we played one more. And that was just really fun. I'm a big board game guy. My family is not the hugest of board games. They'll play them because I ask them to.
Mm-hmm.
But just getting to do that for a couple days was really nice. And I don't want to say I felt loved. I always feel loved. But it was just nice to do something that genuinely I enjoy.
Yeah. I think you single-handedly with your mod powers. Did you create the board games channel in our
I
Discord?
did create the board games channel because we
Yeah.
had video games channel, but we didn't have a board games channel.
Mm-hmm.
And so we created the board games channel, and then I'm the only one that talks in it really.
You are.
But it's a great channel.
Yeah. No. I like that the Discord where it has all those channels for all those different interests. I think that's cool, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
overlap, which is nice.
While we're still talking about board games, I have to mention this because I've been mentioning it for the last month.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And please sponsor me. Magpie Games, sponsor me. Avatar: The Last Airbender is arguably my favorite show of all time. It's up there. I genuinely think it is my favorite show of all time. But they started a Kickstarter on Tuesday of last week for a tabletop RPG that's going to be coming out in February, March of 2022. As of this recording, it is at $4.5 million, and their goal was $50,000.
Wow.
I am beyond excited for this. It's everything that I've wanted. I'm glad that the Avatar franchise is finally being used again after just sort of been abandoned by Nickelodeon. So I am beyond excited for that. Check it out on Kickstarter. Avatar Legends is the name of the game. You can get it for $20 with the PDF and all the digital goodies that were unlocked by other people. So I recommend that before we move on to your big topic. And finishing off on Vegas, it was a great time. I got to see family friends that I haven't seen in a while and hang out with their kids, and that was really special to me because they're family to
Mm-hmm.
me, and so it was nice to hang out with them and hang out with their dog because I don't have pets, so I got to hang out with their dog.
A doggo?
Yeah, there was a doggo.
Oh my.
I don't remember what her breed was, but she was incredible. She's a little small dog.
You need to take a picture, bro. Where were the pics? Where were the pics?
Sorry, man. I didn't get pics. I'm sorry.
You failed the team.
I did indeed fail the team. But you know who didn't fail the team? Nick in Kansas City. What did you go do last week?
It was actually in Bonner Springs, Kansas.
Bonner Springs.
Which is like, it's funny because we were going to the venue of this thing, and we were technically still in Kansas City because the place we were passing by is a place in Kansas City, Kansas. And I'm like, if this concert is in Bonner Springs, Kansas, then this venue must literally be on the border between the two cities, and it actually was. We got a welcome to Bonner Springs sign as we drove into the venue. I think it's called the Azura Amphitheater, aka Sandstone. and a friend and we saw the Foo Fighters live, and this was my very first concert that I've ever been to.
What a way
Uh,
to go.
yeah,
What a what a choice.
so we should establish this dynamic before we get any further. Of the two of us, I am not the biggest Foo Fighters fan. That
No,
goes
you are
to
not.
you. You are much bigger a fan of Foo Fighters than I am.
Yeah, Foo Fighters is my favorite band in the whole wide world. I love them. Listen to all their albums multiple times. Dave Grohl is a treasure. He's just what a guy. That's all I can really say. What a guy. Everything that I see from him is caring and just being a genuinely good person. And I've seen a lot of the documentaries from Foo Fighters and stuff, so it's not always happy go lucky and stuff, but they're one of the bands that I will consistently listen to. And I'm always glad to hear new music or anything from them, really, even if it's their side projects. Shifty, Chris Shiflett, he has his own band and he has his cooperation with, I believe, Taylor Guitars, but don't call me out on that. I believe he has a Stratocaster that's after him, I want to say, but again, don't call me after that. Anyways, they all have deals with other guitar companies, and it comes out in the passion that they have behind their music. So they are by far my favorite band. I haven't seen them live. I did see them play Lollapalooza because that was showing on Hulu, and that was awesome. But tell me about the live experience.
Yeah, so I guess I should talk about my Foo Fighters fandom a bit before. I've always like casually liked them. I heard a handful of all the major songs you'll think of when you think Foo Fighters. Those are songs that I'd heard just on the radio or in video games, whatever. Um, and then this year, I think probably thanks to you, I did a deep dive like I did with Blink 182, who Blink 182 has become my favorite band now. I did the same deep dive with Foo Fighters, just went through all their main albums. I think I went through was it Saint Cecilia, that side album they did. I went through all that. Uh, I went through it once. I went through some of the albums the second time. I really dig Medicine at Midnight, their most recent album in particular. I think top to bottom, that's one of my favorites. But I became a pretty big fan. My buddy brought up the idea of going to see him. The tickets weren't ungodly expensive, so we went, and it was one of the best nights of my life. That's what I'll tell you right off the bat. It was uncomfortable for a little while. At the start when we got there, we had to stand in line. I think for about maybe a half hour. It wasn't too bad. Super crowded. Dave at one point on stage, he said 18,000. I know that's what the venue holds. It's an outdoor venue, I should say. I know that's what the venue holds, and it felt like it couldn't have been any lower than 17,000. The amount of spaces that were available in the lawn where we were seated, they were really hard to find. So it was pretty packed, maybe a little too packed considering what's going on in the world right now. But
Yeah, which
yeah,
this was before Delta had come out and stuff, but either way, some would say it's still too early to hold these large concerts. But you were saying?
yeah, it's a little iffy. Like my buddy and I, we were vaccinated, so like we were all good with going. Uh, we got a seat in the lawn. Oh, I guess I should say before we sat in the lawn, there was a merchandise stand right inside on the left, and I had gotten cash from an ATM because I wanted to get a T-shirt, and I got my T-shirt. It's the tour shirt with all the dates on the back, stuff like that. And what I wasn't prepared for was that they had a bunch of vinyl records hanging up there that they had for sale. So they had most of the albums. I think they had Medicine at Midnight, which is the one that I bought. They had Concrete and Gold. They had In Your Honor, I think, and one other. It wasn't Wasting Light, I remember, and it wasn't Color in the Shape because those were two I was surprised they didn't have there.
One by one.
It might have been. I don't
There's
I don't
nothing
know
left
them
to
as well
lose.
as you do.
Foo,
You'll just
Foo
go through all the
Fighters,
names and I'll be
Sonic
like, hey,
Highways,
maybe.
Echo Silence, Patience and Grace. Wait, which one?
I'm pretty sure Sonic Highways was there.
Sonic
But
Highways is the one that no one talks about. I
yeah,
like the album,
it's fine.
but
There's a couple good songs on there. It's not one of my favorites by any means.
yeah,
Yeah, so I got my Medicine at Midnight vinyl from there because I'm a vinyl collector. I dusted off the record player for the first time in almost a year and a half, I guess, and actually listened through that on Friday night, which was a blast. Uh, yeah, so after that, we went in, we got our seats on the lawn, uh, and it was a while before the opener, which was a band called Radkey, which is a local band to KC. They were touring with them for a few different dates. They came on stage, they were the opener. They played for about 45 minutes, I think, and they were pretty good. I don't want to get in trouble with the Radkey fans out there. There were two people in line right behind us that were both wearing Radkey shirts. but I don't know if I feel that they're any better than just a concert opener kind of band. Like they're good background rock music, but I don't have stronger feelings beyond that. But once they were done, there was probably I guess almost a half hour of stage setup. I think they said that the Foo Fighters tweet that they'd be on at 8:30 where we were, and they didn't end up going on stage till 9. So I wonder, because they played for 2.5 hours. They played from 9 to 11:30, which is what I heard that you should expect is that they'll be on stage longer than most main bands at concerts will be. So they were on for 2.5 hours once they got on stage, and I think they would have played for 3 if they'd been able to get on stage at 8:30 like they wanted to, because they had a hard out at 11:30 here. And they went through 20 songs. Now I'm gonna play a game with you now. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm the biggest fucking dweeb. I took notes on every song that they played and about some observations I made throughout the concert. So
Mm-hmm.
this is going to be really indulgent on our part, and if you don't know Foo Fighters, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have you guess. Try and guess. I'll give you 20 guesses. See how many songs you can get that they
Okay.
played. All right. Now I will
Yeah.
give you two caveats at the start. There are 18 actual Foo Fighters songs. They did two covers, and because you're a fan, you might know the ones that they did. But
Okay.
if you want to start guessing, I will tell you yes or no to the ones that you say.
All right. The two covers, I'm gonna go with "Somebody to Love" by Queen
Yes, that's one.
and "You Should Be Dancing" by the Bee Gees.
Yep, that's the other. By the
Okay.
DGs on this one.
DGs
There's a
because
whole there's a whole
they
story about
released.
that.
Yep, they released their covers album of 5 Bee Gees songs and then 5 live recordings of not Concrete and Gold, Medicine at Midnight.
Yep. And
All
they
right.
had a confrontation with the Westboro Baptist Church before the concert
Oh, it's a great story.
that Dave talked about on stage. I think he was being very serious when he said he loves coming to Kansas City because I think that only happens when they come to Kansas City because it's I think mostly something local to Kansas. I
Yeah,
know there's pick your various hateful churches at different places in the country, but Westboro is kind of what we've got here, and that's just a recurring bit for the Foo Fighters now.
it is indeed. All right,
Oh,
so the rest of the songs.
all right, you have 18 guesses to try and get as many of these songs as you can, and go.
Times Like These,
That's one.
Learn to Fly,
That's one. Yep.
Best of You.
Yep.
Um, no. Um, did they do Everlong?
Yeah, they ended on Everlong.
Okay, figured.
So you're 4 for 4 right now.
Did I already say Learn to Fly?
You did.
Okay. Um, let's see. Uh, they did Making a Fire.
No, I was
They didn't
interested.
do
I was
Making.
interested at the Medicine at Midnight songs that they actually did. Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I should say there's actually 17. That Dave did one cover, and if it helps, I will say he did this with his daughter.
Oh, yes. I know what it is. I can't remember the name of the song, but I know which one you're talking about. They
Yep.
they did it. It comes out in their documentary about traveling bands and stuff, but I forgot the name of it. But I know which one you're talking about.
Okay. Should I say the name of it?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's called Nausea by X.
That's what it was.
Yep. Okay. So, you're four for
Okay.
five out of
Um,
17.
I'm gonna go with Shame Shame.
Yep. You're 5 for 6.
No Son of Mine.
Yes. You're 6 for 7.
Okay. Let's see.
Anderson?
I'm gonna say they went with Waiting on a War.
No. You are
They didn't.
you are
Okay.
6 for 8. There's only one more Medicine at Midnight song I think that they did.
I'll go with The Pretender.
They did do the Pretender, so you're 7 for 9.
Monkey Wrench.
Yep, you're 8 for 10. Big story
My
or a fun story about that. Um, they brought a girl from the crowd on stage, and she absolutely shredded on guitar. And Dave
That
just,
was the video that
yep,
I was seeing. I didn't click on it, but I saw, oh, Foo Fighters fan plays on stage, and I was like, okay, so they did the thing again.
they did do
Because
the
they
thing.
they do it a lot.
I've heard tell that they do the thing, and I don't know. I want to believe that he just brings a random person on stage, but I feel like they have to at least screen them beforehand to make sure they're okay at guitar.
I don't know, but yeah.
Okay, I
Um,
want to believe, but yeah. Either way, it was a cool moment, and she did great.
two
So you're
from Concrete and Gold. I'm gonna go with Run in the Sky's the Neighborhood.
just the Sky's a Neighborhood. So you're
They
nine
didn't do
for.
Run.
I guess you're 9 for 12 because you said two songs.
I'm gonna be honest, that's pretty good for me,
Yeah. So you've got six
given that
more.
I haven't seen. Okay. Did they do Arlandria?
Nope.
Dang it.
So you're 9 for 13. They did. Uh, excuse me. I think they did two songs from Wasting Light.
Oh God, this is embarrassing.
You've already gotten over half, so I think you're doing okay.
Um,
There was a couple that I didn't know by name. I had to look them up after. Like, I wrote down what I thought they were called because I didn't recognize them totally.
I
Uh,
don't think they did Big Me, because I don't know if they're performing that one still.
no, I don't. I don't even know what
No,
that song is off the top of my head. So 9 for
it's the one
14.
that makes fun of the Mentos commercial.
Okay,
Um,
you got three more guesses. See what you can get.
dang it. Um, three more guesses I have.
Yep. So the most you can get
Okay,
is 12 for 17, which is still pretty good.
okay. Given that I didn't even screen this, by the way. I
Nope.
didn't look at
Nope.
the
I didn't even
list or
tell
anything
you.
like
All I
that.
told you was that I had a game in mind. I didn't tell you what it
Yeah.
was.
Oh crap. So the only concreting gold they did was
The
Sky's
sky is a
Neighborhood.
neighborhood. Yep.
Okay, and I'm missing one
From Medicine.
from. I'm gonna go with. Oh, Medicine at Midnight.
It was Medicine at Midnight. Yep.
Okay,
That was
I'm
all they
thinking to
did from that
myself,
album.
I'm like, they wouldn't do Cloud Spotter. I don't know
No.
why. Cloud Spotter is a great song, but they didn't do it.
No.
So Medicine at Midnight, they did. Okay,
Yep. So you're 10 for
they
15. You
won't
got two
perform
more.
anything from Sonic Highways. I know that.
I I don't think any of these are from Sonic Highways. I think the
Okay,
rest of
so
them are older.
there's two more from Wasting Light, which is my favorite album.
I don't want to give any hints though.
I'm
You can.
gonna say Rope.
Yep, that was one. You're
Okay.
11 for 16.
And then we'll finish off saying Bridge Burning.
It was Walk. That was the other Wasting Light
Walk.
song.
Dang
So
it.
you got 11 for 17. I will run down the whole list here just because I'm not going to remember every single one that you named. So these are in order of how they started. Times Like These started.
Yep.
They did it slow, then they picked up in the toward the end.
That's how
Uh,
they've been opening every concert for
yeah.
this last tour.
I heard this was the pretty standard set list that they've been going with, so they haven't gotten too experimental with what they're playing. But I don't think anyone in that entire amphitheater cared. So they started with Times Like These, then came Pretender, then Learn to Fly.
With a
What?
guitar riff from Hocus Pocus by Focus.
Okay, I'll take your word for that.
If you've seen Baby Driver and you remember that third act, you'll remember that guitar riff.
Okay, I've seen it. I remember the third act. I don't remember the guitar riff. I'm so sorry.
Gotcha.
Okay, so after Pretender was Learn to Fly, then No Son of Mine, then The Sky is a Neighborhood, then Shame Shame, then Rope, then Breakout. That was one he didn't get. That was
Oh,
one. That was one I
Breakout.
didn't. I wrote down. I think it's called Breakout with a question mark.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
it
it's
was called
Breakout.
Breakout. Then they played My Hero, which I don't know if you actually said.
Did I not say My Hero? I know that I was thinking it. I thought I had already said My Hero.
Yeah, there were a couple. I couldn't remember if you'd said My Hero or Times Like These.
Okay.
Yeah, then they played that. They played These Days, which was another one I
These
didn't know.
Days. I do like These Days. For a
I
while,
thought it
that
was called
my
One of
favorite
These
song.
Days.
No,
'Cause of how
These
the
Days
song
is one of
goes.
my favorite songs.
Yeah. Then after that, we had Medicine at Midnight, and then we had Walk. Then we had his whole Westboro story, and then we got DGs. I could hear that the music in the background as he was just talking on stage was becoming more and more funky, so I leaned over to my buddy who I had told about DGs on the ride over, and I said, we're about to get some fucking DGs, and it was amazing.
Nice.
After that, we had a little bit of a break, the closest thing they took to like an intermission of any kind. It was Pat Smear's birthday that day, so they
I
had
love
they,
Pat Smear.
yeah, it was actually one of the singers for Radkey, the opening band. It was one of his birthdays as well, so they had a little birthday party backstage that I saw they tweeted about. They played a little video for Pat's birthday. They included a bunch of songs in there. I think there was some Queen, there was some Prince, and they played a little bit of Man Who Sold the World, the Nirvana version.
Wow, they played Nirvana.
No, they just play
They-
they play little snippets of the songs and
Yeah,
a
they're
little
more
video
open
tribute.
about it now because Pat and Dave were both in Nirvana,
Uh-huh.
but they still most of the time won't play it.
Yeah, yeah, they didn't play it on stage. It was just pre-recorded in a video, but they did a little video tribute to him. Then after that, they I don't. This might have come before DGs. I might get the order wrong in my head. Either way, then they got what's his name, Taylor Hawkins, the drummer.
And he sang "Somebody to Love."
Yep, Dave went on the drums. Taylor sang "Somebody to Love." That was fun. I blew my vocal cords out singing along to that because I'm not the biggest Queen fan. I like some of their songs, and "Somebody to Love" is definitely my favorite. So I sang right along with that. After that, we got All My Life, which you didn't get.
Oh, I'm upset about that one. I All My Life is the one that I should have said. That's the one that I was thinking of.
So All My Life actually had one of the biggest crowd reactions when that guitar riff started of like any of the songs of the night. Even Everlong didn't get a reaction that big. It was kind of amazing because I was like, I don't even know the song off the top of my head, but everyone kind of lost their shit for All My Life when it started. Uh, so then after that, they played what they said was the first song from their first record. I Just Gave It Away.
This is a call.
Yeah, I that was one I didn't recognize. I haven't heard their first record more than once. The only song that I like listen to often from that is Good Grief. The rest of that album I don't know super well. So they played This Is a Call. Then Dave brought his daughter, I think her name's Violet, brought her up and they sang Nausea by X together. I didn't know. I assumed she was like early 20s. She's 15.
Yeah, she's young.
She's just touring with him at 15. I guess it's
His
her summer,
daughter, his
it's
second
her
daughter,
summer
just
break
turned
still.
8.
Wow. He's a little younger than I thought he was. I thought he was like mid late 50s. I think he's 52. I think he was born in 69. Anyway, so after that, they did Best of You, and then they did Monkey Wrench, which they brought up the fan on stage. Then they did Everlong to close it out. They held that last note on Everlong as he was saying goodnight. They probably held it for like 2 or 3 minutes as the amphitheater was clearing up, and it was really cool. And that was how it ended. It was a ridiculous traffic jam trying to get out. We were parked at the front because we were among the first people there, so we were the last people to actually get out. And all the cars in that area, they all were blaring Foo Fighters out of their speakers, and everyone was just kind of partying in the parking lot, and we were sitting in our car. And then we left, and that was the night. But it was a total blast being there. Like, that feeling, that energy, I haven't really felt before. I've never been at a concert, especially not because I know Foo Fighters has a reputation for being one of the best bands to see live. Like, even if you're not a fan of them, their energy is just infectious, and I felt that really strongly there. Because, like I said, I'm not the most massive fan. I like him a lot. I like him more now, I will say. I've gone back to listen to more since that concert. But just being there, feeling the energy from everybody, like Dave's energy on stage was infectious. He knew how to play with the crowd. That's a skill set that I don't think every singer has. Like, I'm sure most singers probably don't have as good a skill set as far as working the crowd as he has. But it was just a total blast from start to finish.
That's just great to hear.
Yeah,
I'm
I,
glad
I
to hear
felt
that.
I felt bad that I got to go before you did. That feels
Listen,
unjust.
it is what it is.
It feels
I'm not
unjust. That's all I'll say.
upset. Sure, I'll take that.
Yeah. I took a couple notes because that's the kind of loser I am. I'm sitting at a concert and I'm opening the notes app on iPhone to take some notes about what happened so I can talk about it on the podcast. Uh, I noted that the backup singers were great. They shouted out the backup singers a couple times. I didn't know that his daughter was among them until later in the show. He was really sweaty, like immediately. Like by the end of times like these, he was drenched in sweat, and he looked like that the entire night. It was kind of amazing. I don't know how he did it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think most of these I talked about. Yeah, there was. I will say at the end of Best of You, which isn't one of my favorites. I do like that song, but they had probably a good 2 to 3 minute extended like instrumental at the end of that song, and that might have been the highlight of the whole show. The instrumental that they do at the end of Best of You was incredible.
If it's the same one that I saw for Lala, then yeah, it's really good. I mean, in general, them just on stage doing anything is pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, that's how I felt the whole show. But that one moment, other than the fun stuff like doing Queen, doing DGs, and bringing the fan up on stage, as far as like actual musical moment, I think that was the highlight of the whole show. That was where everyone was just syncing up perfectly at their best.
I am glad that you had an amazing time at the concert.
I am,
Hopefully,
I am too.
I see them next tour. That's what I'm hoping. Or if they add some more show dates and one of them is in Phoenix, hopefully I'll be able to see them because that is on my bucket list just to see them. But I am
Yeah,
glad that you had a fun time regardless.
yeah,
Because,
I
like I
am
said,
too.
people enjoying stuff is what I want to see in the world.
I'm with you there. And I didn't know if I'd enjoy concerts. Concerts were kind of a thing that I had purposely avoided for a while because A, there weren't that many modern bands or acts that I really was dying to see. My musical taste usually skews a little bit older, and some of those bands are not good anymore, or they're not touring anymore, or whatever. Uh, but I finally did it. I was worried it would be too loud. I get miserable when I'm in an environment that's too loud, but it was perfect. That's all I can say.
Hey, that's good. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that's it for this podcast.
I think so. I thought we might have gone even longer than we did, but we got through everything.
Oh my god, right now we're at 1 hour 17 minutes. Halo.
117. What does it all
117.
mean? Next week, I promise.
Halo talk next week.
I promise. Ramon,
Harley,
in our Discord,
Harley,
I
we
know you were
you're
asking.
listening.
Yeah, I'll do it for you, buddy. Don't worry. And I'll even play some Halo this week to get some stuff to talk about, even though I've played them all 1,000 times.
Yeah. For preference, none of us got into the Halo Infinite technical flight,
No,
but
I'm not
we
good
will
enough
be
for
playing
that.
the beta when it does come out.
I
We
sure
both like
will.
Halo. But I think that's it for this episode. Nick, shout out where they can find you.
All right, so you can find me on Twitter at Reeves_117. There we go, 117 again. We're not at an hour 18 yet, so it's still the 117 minute for 10 more seconds here, at least on my recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find me there. Twitter's pretty much all I use regularly. I'll make some really stupid tweets. I might have some stupid retweets. I might offer the occasional good take, but that's kind of rare. So,
Nick and
or-
good takes are
yeah,
not synonymous.
they're not. They're not. Follow me at your own risk, is all I'll say.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Star Wars Nerd 9. I know it's the name that I just picked. I'm going to be tweeting this episode out. I'll be tweeting out all the episodes from there as well. Make sure that you go to anchor.com/infinite-podcast, I believe is our
Isn't it Anchor.fm?
anchor.fm
There you go.
/infinite podcast /infinite dash podcast. I believe that's where you can find us. Or you can just follow me on Twitter. I'm going to be posting that link pretty much all week long so that you can go there. You can go to any of the podcasting sites that you need from that page. You can subscribe there. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Leave a like. Anything really helps. Share it with your friends and your family, and maybe they'll enjoy it, but who knows.
Thank you all for listening. Thank you for listening to episode 0 last week. Like we said at the start, the response has been really great. I appreciate it from all of you, whether I know you or not. It's been nice to hear the kind words, and I hope you continue listening to us here on our official episode 1 and everything we do in the future.
And have a good rest of your week.
Have
Bye-bye,
a good
everyone.
week. We'll see you next week, and we'll talk about Halo.